Welcome to our deep dive into the world of atomic habit. We're going to be unpacking James Clear's book and seeing how these tiny changes can lead to big results. And I think it's so fascinating how Clear used these principles to go from a life-threatening injury in high school to becoming an academic all-American.
I know, it's amazing.
Talk about a transformation.
It really is remarkable. And that's the core of what makes the book so compelling. It takes the science of habit formation and turns it into a roadmap for positive change.
It does. So, let's just jump right in. One of the first things that really struck me in the book is this idea of the power of tiny gains and losses. What's a seemingly insignificant daily choice you make that you think could have a huge impact in the long run?
Well, that's a great question. For me, it's as simple as making my bed every morning. It seems so trivial, but that one small act sets the tone for my day. It creates a sense of order and accomplishment, carries over into other areas of my life.
I love that. It's amazing how those small actions can just ripple outwards. Now, Clear talks about this concept called the plateau of latent potential. Have you ever experienced this in your own life? You're putting in the effort, but not seeing those results.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I first started learning to code, and I spent weeks struggling with basic concepts, feeling like I was getting nowhere. It was so tempting to give up, but then all of a sudden, things just clicked. It was all that effort I had been putting in finally reached a tipping point, and I broke through to a new level of understanding.
That's such a great analogy for this concept. It's that moment when water finally boils. You've been gradually increasing the heat, but it seems like nothing's happening. Then boom, the water transforms into steam. It reminds us to trust the process, even when we don't see those immediate results.
And that's why it's so crucial to have a system in place that supports those consistent efforts. One of the tools Clear introduces is the habits scorecard. Have you ever tried using this to track your habits?
I haven't, but it sounds like a great way to bring more awareness to those daily actions, both good and bad. Speaking of strategies, one of my favorite ideas from the book is implementation intentions.
Oh yeah.
It's basically saying instead of I'll exercise more, you say I will work out for 30 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. at the gym. Have you ever tried using implementation intentions?
Many times. And it's amazing how effective it can be. It removes the decision-making from the equation. You've already decided what you're going to do, when and where, so there's no room for hesitation or negotiation with yourself.
Oh, I can see how that would be incredibly helpful, especially for those habits we tend to procrastinate on. Now, Clear also talks about the power of our environment in shaping our habits. What's one way you've redesigned your environment to make desired habits easier and undesired habits harder?
Well, one thing I did was create a dedicated workspace for myself. I used to work from the couch or my bed, but it was so easy to get distracted by creating a designated workspace. I've created a clear boundary between work time and leisure time, and it's done wonders for my productivity.
That's brilliant. I might need to try that myself. I'm a sucker for working from the couch with my dog cuddled up next to me.
It's all about those little nudges, right? Just making it a little bit easier to choose the desired behavior.
And that brings us to another fascinating concept, habit stacking, linking a new habit to an existing one.
Precisely.
Ah, yes.
Like saying, after I make my morning coffee, I will meditate for 10 minutes. It's such a clever way to piggyback on the momentum of an existing habit.
And you can even create chains of habits, linking multiple behaviors together in a sequence. Now, let's not forget about the importance of rewards.
Yeah?
Cleary argues that we need to make good habits satisfying if we want to stick with them, but our brains are wired to prioritize those immediate rewards over long-term benefits. How do we overcome this?
That's the million-dollar question. It's where understanding the role of dopamine comes in.
Right.
Dopamine, that feel-good neurotransmitter, is released not only when we experience pleasure, but also when we anticipate it.
So we need to find ways to make those good habits just as appealing as those less healthy but instantly gratifying activities.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. What are some creative ways we can add a little immediate satisfaction to those good habits?
Well, one strategy is to focus on the intrinsic rewards of the habit itself. For example, instead of focusing on the calories you're burning during a workout, you could focus on the feeling of strength and energy you gain.
That's a great point. It's about shifting our focus from the delayed gratification to the immediate benefits. It's like savoring the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes even the smallest tweaks can make a big difference, like rewarding yourself with a relaxing activity after completing a challenging task.
Right, or listening to your favorite music while you work out. It's about finding those little things that make the process more enjoyable. Now, Clear also talks about habit tracking tracking as a way to like monitor progress and celebrate wins. Do you find habit tracking helpful in your own life?
Absolutely. It's a powerful visual reminder of your progress. Even if it's just a simple calendar with X's marking the days you stick to your habit.
Right.
It helps you stay motivated and accountable to yourself.
I can see how that would be really encouraging, especially when you're first starting out with a new habit. It's like a little pat on the back for each small win.
Exactly.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the importance of accountability. Clear talks about accountability partners and habit contracts. What are your thoughts on using these tools to reinforce habit formation?
Well, I think accountability can be a powerful motivator. It's much easier to stay on track when you know someone else is watching and cheering you on.
It's like having a built-in support system to help you through those moments of weakness.
Exactly. And even if you don't have a formal accountability partner, simply sharing your goals with friends or family can create a sense of obligation that can keep you going.
That's a great reminder that we don't always need those elaborate systems to benefit from accountability. Sometimes just putting it out there in the universe is enough to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Now, I'm really curious to hear about Clear's take on aligning our habits with our natural abilities. He talks about this concept of finding your zone of genius.
It's such a fascinating idea.
Tell me more about that.
It's about recognizing that some habits are more naturally satisfying than others. Based on our individual skills and predispositions, it's like finding those activities that we excel at, the ones that feel effortless and enjoyable.
So it's not just about building any habit, it's about choosing habits that align with our strengths and passions.
Yes, and it makes sense, right? When we're doing things that we're naturally good at, we're more likely to experience success, which in turn fuels our motivation and makes it easier to stick with those habits.
It's like we're playing a game that's rigged in our favor. And that brings us to another important concept: the Goldilocks rule. It's about finding that right level of challenge to keep us motivated. Tell me more about that.
Imagine you're playing a video game. If the game is too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get frustrated. But if it's just right, challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so challenging that you want to quit, that's when you get into that flow state where you lose track of time.
Wow, that's a perfect analogy. So how do we apply this Goldilocks rule to habit building?
It's about starting with small, manageable steps and gradually increasing the difficulties you progress. If you try and do too much too soon, you're more likely to burn out and give up. But if you start with a small, achievable goal and consistently build upon it, you'll not only make progress, but you'll also maintain your motivation along the way.
That's a great reminder that progress, not perfection, is the key. Now, I'm really intrigued by this idea that even boredom can be a tool for success. Tell me more about this.
Fear shares this insightful anecdote about an elite weightlifting coach. When asked about the difference between the best athletes and everyone else, the coach's response was surprising. He said it often comes down to who can handle the boredom of training day after day, doing the same lifts over and over again.
Wait, I've never thought of it that way. So you're saying that even boredom can be a tool for success?
Absolutely. It's about embracing the process. Even when it's not glamorous or exciting, it's about showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it.
That's such a powerful perspective. It reminds me of that quote: "The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried." It's about embracing the journey, even with all its ups and downs.
And it's about recognizing that mastery isn't about avoiding failure. It's about persevering through it. It's about developing the mental toughness to stick with the process, even when it gets tough.
That's a fantastic takeaway. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of reflection and continuous improvement when it comes to building atomic habits.
It's crucial. Building habits isn't a one-and-done process. It's about regularly assessing your progress, identifying areas for improvement, and making adjustments as needed.
So it's not just about setting a goal and blindly following a plan. It's about being adaptable and responsive to our own needs and experiences.
Exactly. It's about viewing habit formation as an ongoing experiment. We try something, we gather data, we analyze the results, and we make adjustments based on what we learn.
That's such a great way to frame it. It takes the pressure off of being perfect and allows us to embrace that process of learning and growth. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more thing. Clear talks about the importance of finding a game where the odds are in your favor.
Yes.
What exactly does he mean by that? And how can we apply this concept to our own lives?
It's such a powerful idea. It's about recognizing that we're all wired differently. We have different strengths, talents, and passions. And when we choose habits that align with those natural abilities, we're more likely to experience success and satisfaction. It's like finding your sweet spot, the area where you can truly excel. So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart. It's about finding the areas where we have a natural advantage and focusing our efforts there.
That makes so much sense.
And it's not about limiting ourselves to just one thing. It's about exploring different options and experimenting to discover those areas where we truly shine.
It's about playing to our strengths and finding those activities that feel effortless and enjoyable.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where passion and skill intersect.
That's a fantastic way to put it.
And it's a reminder that the journey of self-discovery is an ongoing adventure.
Well, I think that's a great place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've explored the power of tiny gains, the importance of trusting the process, the role of environment, the significance of rewards, the power of habit stacking, the need for accountability, and the importance of aligning our habits with our natural abilities. What are some of the key takeaways that have resonated with you so far?
One of the things that really stood out to me is the idea that even small changes consistently applied can lead to remarkable results. It's about embracing the power of incremental progress and trusting that those tiny gains will compound over time.
I completely agree. And I love how Clear emphasizes the importance of enjoying the process. It's not about white-knuckling our way to success. It's about finding those little things that make the journey more enjoyable and sustainable.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to remember that building habits is a personal journey. What works for one person may not work for another. It's about finding what works for you, experimenting with different strategies, and embracing the process of self-discovery.
That's such a great point. It's about giving ourselves permission to experiment, to fail, and to learn along the way.
And it's about celebrating those small wins along the way. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth acknowledging.
I love that. Well, I'm excited to continue our exploration of atomic habits in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve deeper into some of the psychological principles behind habit formation,
explore some more advanced strategies, and discuss how to create a system that supports our desired behaviors. Stay tuned.
So we've been talking about how important it is to find those habits that truly resonate with us. But what about those times when even our favorite habits start to feel a little bit boring?
The dreaded boredom.
Yes.
It's the silent killer of many a good habit. So how do we navigate those inevitable lulls? Clear has some fascinating insights on this.
Yeah, he suggests that we need to shift our perspective on boredom. Instead of viewing it as an obstacle, we can learn to embrace it as a necessary part of the process.
That's interesting. It seems counterintuitive to think of boredom as a positive thing.
I know, right? But think about it this way. When we're first starting a new habit, it's all exciting and novel. But as the novelty wears off, we have to dig a little deeper to find that motivation. And that's where the real work begins. It's about showing up consistently.
Even when we don't feel like it. It's about developing the discipline to stick with it, even when the initial excitement fades.
So it's like that saying, amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong.
Exactly.
It's about embracing that repetition, consistency, the sheer determination to master something.
And that's what separates the truly successful from everyone else. It's not about talent or luck. It's about the willingness to embrace the grind, to find joy in the process, even when it feels mundane.
That's such a powerful message. And it's a reminder that true mastery requires a certain level of dedication and perseverance. Now, Clear also talks about the importance of identity when it comes to habit formation. How does our sense of self influence our ability to build and maintain habits?
It's a fundamental piece of the puzzle. Our habits are a reflection of our identity. They shape how we see ourselves and how others perceive us. Think about it. If you have a habit of exercising regularly, you probably see yourself as a healthy, active person. And if you have a habit of procrastinating, you might see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline.
That's so true. It's like our habits become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
They reinforce the beliefs we hold about ourselves.
And this is where the concept of belief change comes in. Clear argues that if we want to change our habits, we need to change the underlying beliefs that support those habits. It's not enough to just force ourselves to do something differently.
Right.
We need to shift our mindset, our perception of ourselves.
It's like we need to rewire our brains to see ourselves as the kind of person who embodies those desired habits. That makes so much sense.
It's about becoming the architect of our own identity. It's about consciously choosing the beliefs and behaviors that will shape the person we want to become.
It's a powerful reminder that we have the power to change, not just our habits, but also our fundamental beliefs about ourselves. And that's where the real magic happens.
It is. It's about tapping into that inner strength and realizing that we are capable of so much more than we often believe.
Now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this idea of breaking beliefs that might be holding us back. What are some common limiting beliefs that people often struggle with when it comes to habit formation?
Some of the most common ones I've encountered are, I'm not a morning person, I'm just not good with numbers, I don't have the willpower, or I'm too old to change.
It's like these beliefs become invisible barriers, limiting our potential and preventing us from achieving our goals.
Exactly. And the first step to overcoming these limiting beliefs is to become aware of them. It's about paying attention to our self-talk, noticing those negative thoughts that tend to creep in and sabotage our efforts.
It's like shining a light on those shadows, bringing them into our conscious awareness.
And once we've identified those limiting beliefs, we can start to challenge them. We can ask ourselves, is this belief really true? What evidence do I have to support this belief? What would happen if I didn't believe this?
It's about questioning the validity of those beliefs and exploring alternative perspectives.
And as we begin to challenge those limiting beliefs, we can start to replace them with more empowering ones. We can choose to believe that we are capable of change, that we have the power to create the life we want.
It's about shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, believing that we are not defined by our past experiences, but rather by our potential for growth and transformation.
It's a powerful shift, and it can have a profound impact on our ability to build and maintain healthy habits.
Now, Clear talks about a number of strategies for making good habits easier and more appealing. One that I find particularly intriguing is the concept of habit shaping.
Habit shaping is a fantastic technique for gradually building up to a desired behavior. It's about starting with a small, manageable step and slowly increasing the difficulty over time.
It's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't expect to run 26.2 miles on your first day of training.
Right.
You'd start with shorter distances and gradually increase your mileage over time.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to habit formation. If you want to meditate for 30 minutes a day, you might start with just 5 minutes and gradually increase your meditation time each week.
So it's about setting realistic expectations and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Absolutely. And it's about being patient with ourselves. Change takes time. It's about trusting the process and enjoying the journey.
Now, another strategy Clear talks about is the importance of making good habits satisfying.
Yes.
But our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term benefits. How do we bridge that gap?
That's where understanding the role of dopamine comes in. Dopamine, that feel-good neurotransmitter,
Right.
is released not only when we experience pleasure, but also when we anticipate it.
So we need to find ways to make our good habits just as appealing as those less healthy but instantly gratifying activities.
Exactly. And one way to do that is to focus on the intrinsic rewards of the habit itself.
So instead of focusing on the calories you're burning during a workout, you could focus on the feeling of strength and energy you gain.
Exactly. Or if you're trying to build a writing habit, you could focus on the joy of creating something new, or the satisfaction of expressing yourself.
It's about finding those aspects of the habit that are inherently rewarding and savoring those moments.
It is. It's about shifting our focus from the delayed gratification to the immediate benefits.
Another strategy Clear suggests is to use temptation bundling. What's that all about?
Temptation bundling is a clever way to combine something you enjoy with something you need to do. For example, let's say you love listening to podcasts, but struggle to find time to exercise. You could bundle those two activities together by only allowing yourself to listen to your favorite podcasts while you're working out.
That's brilliant. It's like a win-win situation. You get to enjoy your podcast and get your workout in at the same time.
Exactly. It's about finding creative ways to make those less appealing tasks more palatable by associating them with something positive.
Now, one of the most impactful ideas in the book, for me at least, is the concept of the 2-minute rule. Tell me more about that.
The 2-minute rule is a fantastic way to overcome procrastination and make it easier to start a new habit. It's based on the idea that any task can be broken down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of focusing on the entire task, we focus on just the first 2 minutes.
Exactly. If you want to start a writing habit, for example, you might commit to simply sitting down and writing for just 2 minutes each day. That's it.
It seems almost too simple, but I can see how that would be a powerful way to overcome that initial resistance.
It is. And the beauty of the 2-minute rule is that more often than not, once you've started those first 2 minutes, you'll find yourself wanting to continue. The momentum takes over.
It's like breaking down that mental barrier. Once you've taken those first few steps, it's much easier to keep going.
Exactly. And over time, those 2-minute actions will accumulate into significant progress.
Now, I'm also curious to hear your thoughts on the role of community and social support in habit formation. Clear touches on this idea of joining a tribe that supports your desired behaviors.
Oh, it's such a powerful force. We are social creatures by nature.
Right.
We're influenced by the people around us. And when we surround ourselves with people who share our values and goals, it creates a supportive environment that encourages us to stay on track.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders constantly reminding us of our goals and celebrating our wins.
Exactly. And it can make all the difference in the world when we're facing those inevitable challenges and setbacks. Knowing that we have a community of like-minded individuals who understand our struggles and support our aspirations can be incredibly empowering.
It's a reminder that we're not in the this alone. We have each other to lean on, to learn from, and to inspire.
It's about harnessing the power of collective motivation and creating a positive feedback loop that propels us forward.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one final concept that Clear discusses, the idea of finding your unique contribution.
It's a beautiful concept. It's about recognizing that each of us has something special to offer the world. It's about finding that unique intersection of our skills, passions, and values.
So it's not just about building habits for the sake of building habits. It's about using those habits as a vehicle to make a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. It's about aligning our habits with our purpose, our mission, our reason for being.
It's about finding that sweet spot where our passions and talents converge to create something meaningful and impactful.
It is. It's about living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
That's such a beautiful message. And it's a reminder that building atomic habits isn't just about personal growth. It's about creating a ripple effect of positivity that extends outwards to touch the lives of others. It strikes me that building atomic habits is almost like creating a work of art. You start with a blank canvas, those small brush strokes of effort, and over time they accumulate into like a masterpiece.
That's a beautiful analogy. And just like an artist needs the right tools and techniques, we need effective strategies to shape our habits. One of my favorites is the 4 laws of behavior change that Clear outlines. It's a simple but incredibly powerful framework.
The first law is make it obvious, right?
That's the foundation. It's about making the cues for our good habits stand out, while reducing the cues for bad habits. Think about how grocery stores strategically place tempting treats near the checkout.
Oh, yeah.
They're making those cues obvious, increasing the likelihood you'll grab that candy bar.
So we can use that same principle to our advantage by, say, putting our workout clothes out the night before or keeping a book on our bedside table instead of our phone.
Exactly. It's all about those subtle environmental nudges. The second law is make it attractive. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, so we're more likely to stick with habits that we find enjoyable.
This makes me think of how I finally made exercise a regular habit.
Yeah.
I used to dread going to the gym, but then I discovered Zumba.
Oh, nice.
The music, the energy, the fun factor, it completely transformed my experience.
I love that. You found a way to make it intrinsically rewarding.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the third law. Make it easy. The easier a habit is to perform, the more likely we are to stick with it.
This is where the 2-minute rule shines, right?
Absolutely.
Breaking down a habit into a small, manageable action that we can do in just 2 minutes.
It's about removing the friction, eliminating those barriers to entry. The final law is make it satisfying. We're more likely to repeat behaviors that bring us pleasure or a sense of accomplishment.
So this is where we can get creative with rewards.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as enjoying a cup of tea after finishing a chapter of a book or taking a relaxing bath after a long day.
Precisely.
Yes.
It's about finding those little things that make the habit worthwhile. Now, one of the things I found really eye-opening in the book is Clear's emphasis on the difference between systems and goals. He argues that goals are about the results we want to achieve, while systems are about the processes that lead to those results.
That's an interesting distinction. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Let's say your goal is to lose weight. That's a great goal to have, but it doesn't tell you how to get there. A system, on the other hand, would focus on the daily habits that support weight loss, like eating healthy meals, exercising regularly, and getting enough sleep.
So the system is like the roadmap, the step-by-step guide to achieving the goal.
That's a great way to put it. And the beauty of focusing on systems is that it shifts our attention from the outcome to the process. It's about enjoying the journey, not just the destination.
That makes so much sense. It takes the pressure off of achieving a specific outcome and allows us to focus on building those consistent actions that will ultimately lead to success.
And it's about recognizing that progress, not perfection, is the key.
Now, as we're wrapping up our deep dive, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this idea of creating a life that feels truly aligned with our values and aspirations.
It's about designing a life that feels authentic and purposeful. It's about making choices that are consistent with who we are and what we believe in.
It's about living a life that feels good on the inside and looks good on the outside.
And it all starts with those small atomic habits. By making conscious choices about our daily actions, we can gradually shape our lives into the masterpiece we envision.
Well, that's an inspiring thought to end on. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling incredibly motivated to start implementing these principles in my own life.
Me too. And I hope our listeners are feeling just as inspired. Remember, building atomic habits is a journey, not a destination. It's about making small, incremental improvements each day that, over time, can lead to remarkable transformations.
So true. you? What is one tiny change that you can make today to start building a better tomorrow? What small step can you take to move closer to your goals?
Remember, it's not about grand gestures. It's about those tiny, consistent actions that, over time, will create a ripple effect of positive change in your life.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into atomic habits. I hope this has been an insightful and inspiring exploration of the power of habits and the transformative impact they can have on our lives.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Until next time, keep those atomic habits flowing.